I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies. If you mix brilliance with bravery, that we can ignite something. Even this conversation alone can ignite the people.
The time is now to express and for people to believe in themselves. The time is now for it to be okay to be great. People in this world shun people for being great, for being a bright color, for standing out. But the time is now to be okay to be the greatest you.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Kelly, and we are back with another video. If you guys are new to the channel and you enjoy true crime stories, news, politics, and so much more, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, guys. I really would appreciate it. And if you're a returning listener, subscriber, well, thank you guys, as always, for being a friend. I really appreciate y'all, and please like the video if you like it. Give me a comment, whatever you can do. It really does help me out, and it's a free way to do so. And I thank everyone in advance for watching this video.
You know the thing.
So let's get right into it.
At this hour, a massive manhunt is underway in New Orleans for inmates who escaped from a jail in the middle of the night and in the middle of the city. Police say 10 men escaped. They think through a hole dug behind a toilet in a jail cell, leaving behind taunting messages for the guards like, "Too easy, LOL." One escapee has already been recaptured. You can see him right there, and police caught him in the French Quarter. At least 4 of the escapees are charged with murder or second-degree murder and are considered armed and dangerous. The sheriff of New Orleans today said that the escapees may have had help from jail staff.
We have indication that these detainees received assistance in their escape from individuals inside of our department. We are investigating our own to find out exactly what happened and where those lapses were.
NBC's Priya Sridhar has been tracking this story for us. And Priya, bring us up to date now. Walk us through the timeline, how this went down, and why do police think that they may have had help?
Hey, Tom, that's right. Yeah, a very alarming and concerning situation down in New Orleans. The sheriff's department there under a lot of scrutiny right now, and they're certainly going to be doing a thorough investigation in the coming days. But right now, the top priority is trying to find these 9 additional inmates who are still on the run. As you mentioned, they are considered armed and dangerous. They're facing serious felony charges, many of them violent offenses like attempted murder, like you mentioned. But we are getting a clearer picture of exactly the timeline of what took place. We know that this detention facility was placed on a lockdown at around 10:30 p.m., which is customary for this facility overnight. We then know that at around 12:23 a.m., the detainees broke through a jail cell door, and the sheriff said that that was because...
All right, what's up, guys? So let's talk about this story here. If you guys haven't heard about it, and this is right in my backyard. So I wanted to come on here and discuss this New Orleans jailbreak. You know, 10 inmates, violent offenders, broke out of the Orleans Parish jail, okay? If you know anything about jail, you guys should probably know that, like, this is not normal, okay? First of all, if you know anything about New Orleans, you know that there's massive corruption, and that's a big part of the problem. And it's also a very liberal city because it's a big city, and that's just kind of like how things go. It's like the only blue area, I would probably say, in the state of Louisiana. They weren't being monitored. They weren't being, there wasn't head counts going on, which is the normal thing. If you're running a jail facility, you want to make sure that all of your prisoners are accounted for in, you know, increments of about an hour, I would say, at the most. But that's not what happened here. That's not what happened here. So let's get into some of the timeline coming from the horse's mouth, which is the Orleans Parish jail sheriff or whatever. And let's see what she has to say for herself.
I want to say that we know that folks are normally locked down in this facility at 10:30 p.m., but these folks that were able to get out did so because of defective locks on the cells. I have talked about those locks since I got into office. I wrote a letter to the consent decree judge, to the city council, and everybody else who would listen. And every time I go to budget, I say the exact same thing. When you all covered our millage, I said the exact same thing. There are deficiencies in these facilities that cause public safety concerns. That's why the millage was so important. We'll get into that a little bit more as we move forward. Now we're going to try and go through a little bit of the timeline of events, because what's being reported out there isn't accurate. What we notice is that the detainees began yanking on a cell to pull it off track. These are the cells that we keep telling that we need to replace at great cost in this facility. They were able to break, that was around 12:23 a.m. They were able to break open a door.
You know what's a good solution for faulty locks or for insufficient locks, or maybe, you know, you don't have the best doors or locking mechanisms on your doors? here's an idea. Why don't you watch them better? Why don't you just keep an eye? Just maybe watch them, you know, do more head checks. Maybe that could be a thing. If you're well aware, you, like, as you said, ma'am, that you've been bringing this issue up and over and over and over again, and they're going to go through some of the costs and things like that, which is absolutely insane. You know all of this, right? You know all this ahead of time, but somehow there was an 8 to 9 hour period where these inmates were allowed to break out of their cells in clear view of CCTV cameras without being noticed. And no one had any knowledge of this until early morning hours. And then you failed to notify everyone else in the city for at least an hour, maybe more than that, as to your massive screw up. So it's kind of giving retard.
There was a corrections monitoring technician in the pod module to be watching that. Wow. They were still able to exit the jail about 1:01 a.m. after breaching a wall behind a toilet in the jail. And based on video surveillance, they were seen exiting a door on the docks where we normally bring in supplies, scaling a wall, and running across the interstate shortly thereafter. We have indication that these detainees received assistance in their escape from individuals inside of our department, and the escape was discovered during a routine head count at 8:30 a.m. this morning. The deputy who was on duty promptly notified jail leadership, and probably before 9:30, we notified the United States Marshals Task Force, which includes all of our partners in the area, and that was before 9:30, about the incident. All right, this incident has once again highlighted the critical need for repairs and upgrades to our facilities, particularly to ensure that doors and locks are fully functional. We currently have 24 pods, and our staff is stretched thin. We are only at about 60% staffing. We still need 150 deputies in this jail and another 50 for the new jail about to open. So we're actively, and I have been actively advocating since I got into office for more money to fix these broken parts of the jail that make it unsecure. And just this week, we went to a capital budget hearing to lobby for more improvements to address just these issues, which would help improve security and safety for both the detainees and our deputies.
Yeah, all right, we'll go take questions.
Sheriff, how many people did you have on staff for this overnight shift that would have not reported this between 1 a.m. and 8:30 a.m.? And wouldn't they have to have known about it if there were plumbing items removed and they were able to get out and there was no notice until 8:30?
I'm going to turn that over to Chief Mallard.
Oh, yeah.
Good question. We actually had 4 supervisors and 36 staff here. That's a pretty, low ratio, but that's what we had on that particular part. We had a monitoring individual that was actually on site where we believe that the exit occurred was behind the cell wall. The staff that was available at that particular time of day, without going into too many security restrictions, wouldn't know that was going on behind the scene. That's more so a physical plant infrastructure deal that we do more routine daily type inspections to make sure that these things are right.
Wouldn't they need?
Well, they probably would have been set off by the fact that they were multiple inmates that were yanking at a door for minutes on end. Clearly up to something. Clearly, very obviously on video, up to something. That should have been their first idea. Who cares about what was going on behind the scenes within your infrastructure, sir? If you have somebody there monitoring them in the pod, then what were they doing? Obviously, they said later that this person was getting lunch or something, which is like, it's just pure, it's comical, y'all. Like, it really is. You have to appreciate New Orleans because it could be such a good city. It could be it's an amazing city. It's actually, New Orleans is amazing. But the leadership that has been installed into this city government is truly something to behold. And we have a good governor now, but we did have a Democrat governor not that long ago, and he was just as bad. But the stark contrast between these officials here, and then I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of the snippet of the governor speaking at a different press conference where they've kind of like left this woman, this jailer, this Orleans Parish jail sheriff, they've left her in the dust. Nobody wants anything to do with her because she's so obviously in the wrong. She was in charge of this jail. She completely dropped the ball and tried to make it seem like this was like a political hit job against her, or tried to pass the buck off on, you know, these faulty locks and the things that were wrong with the jail, when if she knew these problems were in place, that should have like made for extra caution. And it's just, there's no excuse whatsoever.
Escape happened early hours overnight, and once again, public was not notified until 10:30 when y'all's press release came out.
So I found out about 9.
So why wasn't the public known?
We have to find out is what happened. So you got to go inside the facility to be able to see. They could have been anywhere. We have to make sure that's exactly what happened. We have to pull all the video and find out what happened. That takes a little bit of time. Then we have to.
Why is it possible that the inmates? Oh, they could have been anywhere. They could have been any. No, they really couldn't have, ma'am. I mean, there's very limited places actually that these inmates could be.
You said you've been asking for money for a long time. How much money do you need at this point?
The locks alone, I believe, are
5.2 million.
Yeah, just the locks. I mean, you two.
Just the lock. You could build a whole nother facility. I'm sorry, 5.2 million for just to replace the locks. That made me laugh out loud. What a racket that is. What an absolute like scheme. I mean, these people. And then there was this other man who was coming on and talking about how this woman has very little overhead and accountability on the monies that are pouring into that jail. And this woman back here also had a few things to say about the financials having to do with the jail. And it really, all of it just made me quite amused.
Good afternoon, all. I am Major Stephanie Minter Gibson, and I oversee the Crime Victims Unit for the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office.
Oh my God, listen, prayers up for all of you victims out there, because this lady right here, the buck stops with her and her fucking Mardi Gras glasses. The buck stops with her and her Joker costume that she's got on right here, okay? You know, she moonlights as the Riddler on the weekends. But don't worry, victims of crime. She's there for you.
Once I was notified about the escapees, I immediately gathered a team of experienced staff, and we started calling victims and survivors just to make sure that they are aware of what was going on and that they are safe.
Okay, girl. Wow. I'm sure everyone feels very safe right now with you there.
Deteriorating conditions, is there a maintenance and service contract in place to make repairs? And we're also hearing that critical cameras were down for weeks.
We have this is our CFO Bianca Brown to talk more about that.
Hi, so I'm Bianca Brown. So based upon the question that you asked earlier about the fund balance related to the 2023 audit, I'll give you the breakdown of that. 4.2 million was related to accounts payable. 9.5 million was related to FEMA restricted cash for capital projects only. The CJ restricted cash had about 98,000 in it. Due to others, which was processing fees, DAPs, clerk of courts, NOPD property room, they get about 97,000 of that money. We had due to the Department of Public Safety for civilian backgrounds that we conduct, that was about 400,000. And then we also had a detail account that's kind of restricted for radios, video cameras, tactical gear, software, and maintenance for the deputies that they pay based upon their details. So that doesn't exist. That's failed. That money doesn't exist. That was from a 2023 audit that they reported on, and those funds don't exist. As of today, that balance is about 6.3 million that is still due out as of 2025.
And I know that you.
So if we could answer my question, we asked a question, nobody answered.
What is your question?
Once again, we asked multiple times, is there a maintenance and service contract in place to take care of the deteriorating conditions within the pods and within the jail?
We can't
We're also
afford
hearing that there's critical cameras that are not working.
So right now, we can't afford a maintenance service contract. We have maintenance staff that are on board that do the day-to-day. But right now, our current budget sits at about 68 million. 41.1 million comes from the city, 13 million comes from the millage, and about 10.1 million a quarter is given to us. Right now, our payroll is about 9.6. Our food expenses is 780,000 a quarter. That eats up the money.
Okay, so that right there, really, she really thought she freaking ate. She thought she ate and left no crumbs. But ma'am, I see multiple crumbs. I see all the crumbs that there are to see, because she just said, if you didn't catch it, because she's trying to talk fast and she's trying to just like spit out numbers like she's doing something here, like she's sounding smart, but you sound ridiculous, and you just sound like you just wrote some random budget numbers down. $68 million is this jail's budget. This one facility has a budget that they get from all of these different entities that she listed there. You know, this much comes from the city, this much comes from the state, blah blah blah. So 68 million total dollars. And then she listed off 9 point whatever million. So let's call it 10. Let's call it an even 10 million for the staff, okay? And then she listed off 780,000 for each quarter. Okay, so let's call that what? Let's even call that 4 million. Let's round it up to $1 million a quarter for food, okay? And then she stops there. She said that eats up all of the money. Ma'am, that is $13 million. Where is the other $55 million being allotted to? Where is that going? And you say you need, even if you spent the $5 million that y'all are lying about, the locks that you need, supposedly these special, you know, unicorn locks that are going to cost $5 million, that you're really just laundering that money to a privately owned company that's going to come in there and probably put locks that cost maybe, you know, $1 million or less, and then pocket the rest of the money, which that's what the government does. That's basically the you know, the gist of how governments create these rackets and they create these money laundering schemes, is that they hire their friends to do a job, and they allot so much money for this job to be done, and knowing that it's not going to cost so much money, so they over budget for that, and then the person who they hire, which is a friend or somebody that they have some sort of agreement with, then gets to pocket that money, and then they get a kickback from it, one way or another. You know, it's really pretty simple when you think about it. So $68 million, $13 million is what she laid out, and she thought she ate. She really did.
We don't have the funding available to have a full maintenance contract to do this. We've explained this on multiple occasions. Just on Monday, we went to the City Planning Commission and we reported this out. We asked for the money to secure this. So the funding is not available to do what needs to be done.
So if your conditions are not appropriate enough to handle violent offenders like the ones that escaped today, have you all considered potentially shipping them elsewhere?
We can't afford it.
What can you afford? Because I don't know, maybe a little bit more transparency would be a good thing.
Friday, 10 inmates from the Orleans Justice Center broke a locked door. They breached the wall behind the toilet and escaped through a loading dock door before running across the highway. Jail staff did not notice that the 10 inmates were gone until hours later, around 8 o'clock that morning. Gary Price, he is the latest inmate to be caught. Price is charged with several counts of attempted first-degree murder, amongst other charges. Sheriff Hudson, she blamed the escape on funding and poor infrastructure at the jail, but as Joe Giarrusso, City Councilman Joe Giarrusso told us, people believe that she is avoiding accountability.
Yeah.
Remember, the sheriff has routinely refused to join the city's accounting system so we can see where the dollars were going, and in case there are needs, help allocate additional funds there. The bottom line is, if the judges in the federal consent decree or the monitors think something was needed, they've ordered us to raise salaries for the deputies in the past. They've ordered the building of phase 3, the medical center. If they thought something was an emergency, they would have ordered us to do it.
So my question is, how can a public official, especially one that runs a jail facility where murderers are kept, refuse to be a part of the accounting system within the city that would give more oversight or would give more transparency as to where taxpayer dollars are being funneled to? That in and of itself is wild. Okay, just absolutely freaking wild.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is a very unfortunate and disappointing circumstance. I want to echo my thanks to our federal and state and local partners and everyone out there who has been working extremely hard to try to capture these fugitives. I also want to thank my fellow colleague, Senate President Cameron Henry, who's here today. Darlene, I'd like you to know that in addition to the FBI increasing their award from $5,000 to $10,000, I would ask that you go ahead and increase the Crime Stoppers award to $5,000. That's a $3,000 increase. Both Senator Henry and I are going to cover that amount. I believe that the majority of citizens in this state and in this city want law and order and security in their neighborhoods, safe streets for their children, and that they are frustrated with the broken criminal justice system that places criminals and victims and diminishes the quality of life here in the state. They deserve better, and our citizens deserve accountability and transparency. Again, without the help of Troop NOLA, the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, NOPD, ATF, and other law enforcement agents around the state, we would not be able to engage in this manhunt, and 3 of these fugitives would not be in custody. Last year, with an emphasis on public safety and violent crime, the legislature and I pursued accountability and transparency. And while some progress has been made, the current issue, I believe, reflects a persistent systemic problem that unfortunately is not unique to New Orleans. I have consistently said that our criminal justice system is like a 3-legged stool. One leg being law enforcement, one leg being prosecutors, the other leg.
I love the mirror back here. She is like staring a hole into the back of this man's head. Because this bitch right here, she's something else. This one has her own issues, okay? Like, just Google Mayor Cantrell of New Orleans if you want to know about it, guys. That's a whole other story. But, like, she's got her own corruption issues. And she's a piece of shit. Because she has driven that city into the ground and been a part of doing so. But you can just tell that, like, she's trying to act like she's, like, unified here. But this was, like, one of the first appearances that she made, which was days after. Because at first, like, what we were seeing was a lot of press conferences and updates being given from this, the first set of individuals that we saw, these jail officials. And then after they started, like, bungling everything and really sticking their foots in their mouths, then that's whenever these individuals, the men, came in, thank God, and took over and were like, get the fuck out of the way. But they brought along her, the mayor of the city. But it's, to me, it's kind of a humiliation ritual here, because Jeff Landry is about to excoriate her and the job that is being done within the city of New Orleans, of which she is the mayor.
Being our courts. And if one of those legs fails, the entire system collapses. Let's talk about that for a minute. Our law enforcement officers around the state and in the city are doing an unbelievable job. And they're making their arrests. They're doing their part. Since the creation of Troop NOLA last year, the state police currently has over 500 cases in the Orleans criminal court system that is being handled by the Attorney General. Now, once a person is arrested, we all know they are booked in a parish jail. And it brings us to why we are here today, which is a failure in the jail system. This massive jailbreak, which my statistics tell me could be the largest jailbreak in the history of the state, should never have happened. And the public deserves to know who, what, and how this happened. The responsibility for answering those questions will fall to the Attorney General. Her office will lead the investigation into this jailbreak. I've also ordered the Department of Corrections to audit the Orleans Parish Correctional Facility for compliance with basic jail guidelines, and to remove all DOC inmates that were currently in the Orleans Parish Correctional Facility.
Financial audit.
I will be issuing an executive order that instructs the State Inspector General to get an inventory from the sheriff of all pretrial detainees and those awaiting sentences, like Derek Groves, the escapee, who pled guilty to manslaughter in October of last year and was awaiting sentencing. If he would have been sentenced by our court system, he most likely would not have had an opportunity to escape. That's extremely
casually
important.
Walking by.
Now, once a person is booked, is arrested and booked, the case then goes to the district attorney or the attorney general. That is the second leg of our 3-legged stool. Prosecutors who dismiss cases and release violent criminals must be addressed. 5 of these escapees had been charged while in jail. Kendall Miles, Lenton Vanberg were charged with battery on correctional officers. Those charges were refused by the district attorney.
Oh, wow.
Robert Moody, Jermaine Donald, and Lenton Vanberg were all charged with contraband in jail. Their charges were refused by the district attorney.
Oh, my God.
Prosecutors who are unprepared and delay cases for years must be addressed in this court system. 9 of the 10 escapees have been in the pretrial stages in OPCC for years now. Resolving these cases requires cooperation between the district attorney and judges, as only the judge has the ability to continue these cases. I'm asking the DA to explain to us and to the public why these cases are not progressing.
Oh my. And funny thing was that like the DA came out and did his own press conference, which I'm not going to show you guys because it's just too much. It's just a lot. Okay, but it's just funny to me, like these dueling press conferences, like between like the jail officials from Orleans Parish, like the mayor, and then the FBI agents. You know, obviously the most capable ones in charge here. And then they had the DA that came out later, and I guess responded. He clapped back, if you will, at Jeff Landry for, you know, him calling him out, his name right here, and saying, you know, like, you're basically a feckless retard who doesn't charge these violent offenders, some of which were accused of assaulting the jail officials there at the jail where they're being held, and the DA didn't pursue the charges. Like, you are feckless. You are the definition of a moron. And he came out and tried to, like, you know, make a statement and tried to, like, defend himself and try to come out all bold and, you know, like, oh, I'm doing my job. But just absolute shenanigans, absolute absurdity of Louisiana politics. It just really is such... it really is comical. You have to like kind of understand like Louisiana politics have a special kind of like something about it, a je ne sais quoi, if you will. You know, they're all working against each other to protect their own interests. And it's the reason why 10 inmates were able to facilitate a whole ass escape from this prison.
Partners know the more information we can collect from the public, the quicker we can apprehend the rest of these criminals.
Next question. Mayor Cantrell, this is the first time we've seen you publicly since this happened. What would you like to say to the citizens of New Orleans?
So first off, this isn't the first time that you've seen me, or the public, I would say, has seen me since this incident occurred. As I've told the public before, and I will continue to do that today, be as cooperative as possible.
Okay, girl.
If you see something, absolutely say something.
How profound.
The Crime Stoppers and the partnership and the coordinated response here remain vigilant and are pursuing this manhunt again with real determination. And I know for a fact that we will bring justice, no doubt about that. This has been, I would say, a different issue, but the response has been the same from my standpoint. Unified command, we lean forward, we don't give up, we stay focused, and we get results done for the city of New Orleans as well as the state of Louisiana. So that's what I say today. That's what I will continue to say as it relates to the work that's being done, again, by the hardworking men and women of all law enforcement agencies that have been boots on the ground. The city of New Orleans will also continue to ensure that funding for the jail has been a priority since taking office, me, 7 years, actually last week. My administration has put forth over $577 million for the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office.
And where has that gone? That is insane. Do you realize what you just said, ma'am? And then they're talking about they need more funding. $507 million. That is $500 million to this one parish sheriff's office. Where's the money? Show me the freaking money.
160 million of that have been on operating expenses alone, with an increase of 36 million relative to capacity building in which we have been funding. In addition to that, it's been capital improvements that rest around $116 million, where 104 million has been allocated to build phase 3, as was mandated by the federal judge that we do that. So we have been doing our part, my administration, and we will continue to do that on behalf of the residents and visitors that we serve every day. But I am absolutely happy to even say, in spite of this manhunt, the city of New Orleans has been hosting thousands of visitors in our great city, having the time of their life, participating in graduations, again, showing love to our graduates and families throughout the city, and even cultural events that are going on right now. But as they do, our focus remains the same. Manhunt, we will get it done. Thank you very much.
Hashtag manhunt, we will get it done, bitch. Yes. Pop off, queen. Oh my God, she ate. She thought she ate. I thought she was going to go full ghetto. That neck started going and I got a little afraid. But like, y'all hear the numbers, right? Like, why are we just throwing money at issues that obviously clearly aren't working? Okay, let's just be let's work smarter and not harder, okay? That would be a good idea.
I have a couple of you in my family, governors, right? Chief executives. And ordinarily, when it comes to prison breaks, buck stops with them. You're saying you take responsibility, but it's not your fault. This is about progressive politics.
What the fuck are you talking about? Since when? Chris Cuomo, need to get a hold of yourself, sir. I mean, where's your big Q-tip, okay? Did you leave the big Q-tip at CNN, or did you bring it with you to News Nation? Because I need to know. You're telling me that it's the governor's job. The buck stops with the governor, who's supposed to be in charge of local jail facilities, where they have put black women in charge of things over there. Is that what you're saying right now? Okay.
Well, first of all, you need to remember that this jail is not under the state of Louisiana's jurisdiction.
Hello.
It is under the sheriff's jurisdiction. That falls, it's like, say, a county. Here in Louisiana, we have parishes, Chris. So this was a county jail. The problem that I have is the fact that that system in that jail has people that have been sitting in those jail cells waiting for sentences. If they were sentenced, then they become my problem. I get to take them and put them in a state facility. They have people that have been sitting in those jails for years, either between the DA and the judges, that are constantly keeping them there and not being able to either try them or get them pleaded, so that, again, we can process them and put them into state care.
Yeah, Chris. Get a grip. Get a freaking grip on yourself, Chris Cuomo. I mean, my God, you're a ridiculous person. And just so we know what kind of people we're dealing with here, this was one of the latest that was caught, okay? None of them were smart enough. The ones that have been caught so far yet, at least, were not smart enough to get the F out of the city, okay? That would have been my first thought of the case. You're doing a whole ass jailbreak where you're putting everyone in jeopardy, yourself, your family members, the people that helped you escape. You know, everybody is going to eventually have consequences come to their doorstep. And this is what one of the inmates that escaped the jail was out here doing.
You alright?
Girl.
Straight.
I hope that man got his $20,000.
I just was by this man.
I hope he got, listen, I would have told on him too. I don't give a damn. Give me $20,000, but I will tell on all of y'all. And then a couple more that were caught were strolling through the French Quarter, okay? Just like, these were, I think the first one was caught. One of them was caught, like the very, very first one, because he was just casually, you know, in one of the most busiest, well-monitored areas of New Orleans, right downtown in the French Quarter, okay? Real smart individuals you're dealing with here. So, this is another individual that is in charge of the city there, Ann Kirkpatrick, who was, I believe, the chief of police for the New Orleans Police Department.
Until sometime after 10 o'clock this morning.
Looks
How crucial
dangerous.
is time to, number one, recapture these individuals, but also to alert partner agencies as well as the public to be on the lookout for these people?
Well, that's why I'm here. So I only learned about it as well. And I spoke with the sheriff, and she was going to be doing her media response, was we wanted to give her that opportunity to do so.
Oh, wow.
And I understand that she has, but
just let her try. Listen, let her try. Okay, she's a woman. We're gonna let her, you know, see what happens. It's not like we're dealing with 10 escaped fugitives here. Okay, Ann is here. The big bad Billy Badass is here, guys. Never fear. The chief of police, New Orleans, one of the most dangerous cities in the country, is being led by your typical grandmother, your typical white grandmother, who looks like she should be at home baking snickerdoodles, okay? But yet, she's out on the main streets of New Orleans fighting the crime, guys. She's going to take one of these fugitives down herself with her own 2 white old lady bare hands, okay? This is what's going on in New Orleans, okay? Do you feel safe, New Orleans? Look at the faces of the ladies in charge and tell me, do you feel better now? I hope you're comforted by this image right here, because I know I am. I know I am. We have mostly black women and one grandma, okay, who is running the city, guys, and rest assured, they're gonna get it done, okay? So no need to fear, no need to be afraid of anything. Just remember that image when you need a little reassurance, okay? And then the latest come out is that there was a prison worker, Sterling Williams, was arrested in connection with the escape. So he told the investigators that one of the inmates threatened him to turn off the water, but he's full of shit, because he was also on CCTV camera passing a cell phone off to one of the inmates, but he helped facilitate the turning off of the water to that toilet so they could then move it without flooding the entire jail and causing more attention, because even though nobody was watching them, even though obviously this was an unmanned station and they could have given not a single fuck less about what was going on inside of their own jail and whether or not these inmates were killing each other or starting a riot or whatever the case may be, escaping from the jail. I mean, they couldn't have cared less, okay? But apparently this man shut off the water to help facilitate this escape, and now he is arrested, and he's in big trouble, okay? You sir, are screwed. You're effed, okay? Good luck to you. Now you're really gonna get shanked because you went and called this man, Massey, out of his name. Okay? You're screwed. And I have a feeling there's going to be more arrests to come because there wasn't just one guy helping, okay? There were multiple people within this jail facility that helped to facilitate this, and I'm ready for some accountability. I want to know what the next steps are, and I want to know it from the men in charge, the governor, you know, all of the male police officers, and we need to put all of these ladies on leave, okay? They really need to just be fired at this point, because this is what happens, guys. This is what happens when you let ladies think they can be cops, okay? This is what happens. This is what we have here. So, yeah, you guys let me know what y'all think about all of this, because this is a crazy story. And like I said, this is right in my backyard. So, you know, I felt a little bit more connected to this because I thought for sure that these people were going to be, like, dispersing throughout the city and, throughout the state and, like, trying to get out of town in order to, like, avoid being rearrested. But now we are hearing that 5 have been rearrested, all of whom were found in New Orleans. None of them had the smarts to escape from the city and try to really make a go of it. You know, they were all just kind of like lounging around. I don't know what the hell they were doing. They thought they could just like reintegrate back into like normal society, I guess. I don't know. But 5 are still at large, some of which have been accused of murder or convicted of murder or other violent crimes. So it's a real shit show, guys, out there. So y'all stay safe. Let me know what you think about this in the comments down below, and subscribe to the video. Subscribe to the channel if you've made it all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate that, guys. And until next time, I will see y'all later. Bye.
I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies. If you mix brilliance with bravery, that we can ignite something. Even this conversation alone can ignite the people.
The time is now to express and for people to believe in themselves. The time is now for it to be okay to be great. People in this world shun people for being great, for being a bright color, for standing out. But the time is now to be okay to be the greatest you.